you this now. Farming and agriculture groups in the northwest have been affected by the power cuts too, the heat wave, as well as climate change. The farmers say load shedding is of a major concern, and it's making farming much more expensive. Let's get you a sense of how this is affecting them. Bring in Refiloe Seboko, who's live to us from that area. And Refiloe, of course, this is just one of the ways in which load shedding is putting even more of a burden on South Africans who've been struggling to make ends meet as things are.
It sure is putting on more pressure. Farmers who are saying that not only just load shedding, but together with heat wave that continues to impact negatively to their production. But allow me to welcome Seboko from Timotuo in Buhrmansdrif. We are in Buhrmansdrif. Thank you so much, Ntabiseng, and welcome to Newzroom Afrika. The impact of load shedding together with heat wave, how has that affected you guys?
Allow me to first greet the viewers at home. I think the farming, the primary agriculture has taken quite a dive for the past few years. Heat wave is certainly not helping things because now we're recording the lowest productivity rates. You have to rest the labor because they cannot work in extreme heat, and that for us is problematic because productivity is lost during that period. Another big thing is the fact that we're not now able to really have as much time to pump water, especially the guys who do not have the solar mechanisms. So when electricity stops, it means now you have to also stop. That also causes quite an extreme delay on the productivity as a whole.
And let's talk about the contingency plan that you guys have here in the farm that is helping you, maneuver around this whole heat wave and load shedding.
It's one thing for us to sit and complain and mope about our problems, but I think as a mitigating, factor, we have sought to now utilize solar energy to help pump and obviously relieve pressure, on ourselves and as well as the grid. What I think would help is when we have a bit more in terms of how this grid can assist us to assess to the power supply or system, in our spaces.
And besides load shedding, we've seen the recent Eskom NERSA hike that happened. How is that going to impact you as a farmer?
For first generation farmers who has to now set up infrastructure, this certainly has quite a huge impact. Already production is heavy laden because the electricity costs are expensive. Now imagine you have a situation where there is electricity costs that are expensive, yet they're not readily available, yet there is a power hike, and yet there is also loss of course, productivity time. So the primary sector of the agriculture space is taking quite a dive. And remember, a few years ago we had the drought, and we also had the FMD. So right now it's basically saying to government, all hands on deck. The trajectory of the new entrance into the agri space is certainly compromised. How do we make it better? Let's not have a situation where we have fancy terms like anaerobic biodigesters, green energy, gracing nice speeches. But where do we now start implementing all these amazing plans? Let's have farmers, let's have all the government departments. Let's not have this silo effect, private research universities. Let's have all the people coming through and actually finding solutions to these issues.
All this, and I'm saying it's happening at the time where it's a harvest season for them. Maybe let's take it to where we are, Buhrmansdrif, and to you guys. How has that affected the harvesting season for you guys?
I think, as I said earlier, the biggest thing is also the fact that you can't even water, during production. Now it's harvesting. A lot of machinery, a lot of labor, as I said, because in as much as we're mechanized, there is a huge also employment space in the agri, we call them barobisi. You have to rest them. So the longer you take for you to harvest, now it causes a huge delay on everything. Remember, the whole value chain gets affected when there's a slight delay in either the beginning stages or the middle stages. So we really are right now at our wits' end. We can only hope that, this inspires action from all the stakeholders. And I'm calling out government, I'm calling out universities with research, I'm calling out all these different departments, I'm calling out organizations, I'm calling out farmers, I'm calling out everyone who has a responsibility of ensuring food security, because we are really in high risk.
When we talk issues of food security and the risk that you are talking about, maybe give us somebody who doesn't understand the picture of how much of a, of a dire situation, especially when you're talking about food security.
You see, I always say food security is everyone's responsibility, but you cannot then be able to bring your produce on time to different markets when you are delayed in the harvesting, in the production, and the whole thing. Now, when your spinach is not able to get to the market in time, it means that you are not able to buy that spinach, which is basically a sustenance issue for a lot of people. When now your spinach is compromised because your cooling chain is compromised, the electricity is not running. You are not able to cool your produce and take it to market. By the time it gets to market, it is not the required quality. Those are very important key issues that we have to address. What do we do with it?
Thank you so much for your time. And Tabiseng Kobokwe from the Timotuo Yabukweni Buphirima here in the Northwest Province. We are in Buhrmansdrif. We also understand that some farmers in Skindrift, together with Slurry, just when you drive it to Ziras, those are some of the areas, farm areas that are affected by not only load shedding, not only heat wave, but also the recent price hike for Eskom, that declaration by NERSA to say production on its own is expensive. It continues to be expensive with the heat, with the load shedding, and everything that is happening right now. So we'll continue to monitor the impact of everything that's happening when it comes to farmers and the production.
Absolutely. Refiloe Seboko, thanks very much indeed. Live to us there from Buhrmansdrif in the Northwest as we continue counting the cost, as it were, of all these challenges.